Hi everybody, this is Ashley Jones. In this tutorial, let's see how to stitch a border block, together in the hoop. So these are blocks that I'm piecing with my block piecer, and I'm adding an additional run stitch line at the bottom and the top to actually seam my blocks together in my hoop. So the way that we would do this, we would stitch 3 blocks. These are all pieced in the hoop, and then I left the third block in the hoop to create that border. So there's my third block that I left in the hoop. I'm going to place one of my other blocks right sides down. I'm going to have created a run stitch line in the software that will actually seam those together, and then I can flip that out and give it a press. But see how I'm still in the hoop with my third block, and I've attached one of the other blocks that I stitched. Same thing here. I have 2 blocks stitched. I'm ready to stitch that third, and I put right sides together and stitch a seam. Then I'm going to flip that out, and I can take that out of the hoop, cut it down, and I have blocks that I've seamed together in the hoop. So let's see how we create this design over in my block piecer. So inside of my block piecer, that's the program that I'm using. You can see here it's highlighted in blue, and it is got the check mark beside it. So this is the program that I'm using, my block piecer. And so what I'm going to do is go up to my block library here, and I'm going to choose my block and click OK. Now this block for my border, I made a 3 by 5. And I'm going to uncheck that maintain aspect ratios to make sure I can get it the size I need. So that's the exact size block that I'm creating. Now my block piecer turns this into an in the hoop block by clicking the workflow, and it's too large for my hoop that I have selected, so I'm going to choose the correct hoop. So I'm going to select my 5 by 7. That'll work great for this, and then click my auto build, sort numbers to put them in numerical order, and then click preview. So here are the block that I'm going to stitch, and this is just the block that does not have the run stitch to seam the blocks together. So I'm going to save this, and we're going to see how to edit that. So I'm going to choose, I'm going to put it here. I've got a folder that I'm using on my desktop. We can leave it the C2S because we're actually going to edit it before putting it into our machine format. But normally right here in Block Piecer, you would make sure to choose your embroidery machine format. So maybe you stitch on a Janome, a Viking, or a Brother or Baby Lock. So choose that format. There's Bernina also. And then click Save, but in this case we're going to edit it before we go to the machine, so I'm going to just leave it in that C2S format. So we're going to just call this our diamond border block, and then I'm going to click Save, and when I click Save, it actually saves the 3 different files from the software. The C2S file here is the actual stitch file. This is the artwork, so if we want to go back and make any edits to the artwork we can, and then that's a preview of how to stitch it out PDF. So we need this file here, which is the stitch file format. So I'm going to double click that. It'll actually open in the background, but we can't see it because of our workflow, and we're done with this, so I'm going to close it, and then there's our file. So let me turn on the 3D here. So if we were to stitch this block in the hoop, it would piece that exact block that we saw in the images. And then normally you would just seam those together on your sewing machine. But I love it if I can do it on my embroidery machine instead of my sewing machine. So I'm going to zoom in to the bottom first, and we'll do the top next. And I just need a run stitch that stitches last to seam 2 blocks together. So I'm going to choose my run stitch tool here in the top next to the artwork. And then all I need to do is click, and I usually do it right outside of this seam just to make sure I've got good coverage, and then I do it right inside this bottom run stitch, so when it sews the 2 together I don't see that run stitch. So I click on the left and then click on the right to make that line, and then I'm going to hit the enter on my keyboard. and it creates a run stitch line. Now if you want to move that closer, which I usually do, I usually just kind of put it like one stitch below. You can highlight it, you can click and drag, but if you want to make minute adjustments, just hold down your control key and then the arrow down key, and you can move that around. You can even move it left or right too if you want. So now you can see I've got it just right above that line, which, you know, is perfect for me. So I'm going to copy this, paste it, and then I'm going to double click my zoom tool, and I'm going to drag this to the top. Notice to move it, my cursor turned to the little hand, so I can move that to the top. And then I'm going to zoom in so I can see how close I've got it. So get my select tool, make sure that's selected, and then now control and your arrow keys will let you nudge that into place. And I usually put it right on the inside, so then that way when that run stitch stitches and I fold my block out, I will not see that run stitch that is that final stitch around the edge there. So if I zoom back out, we've got our block and our 2 run stitches. So let's watch what happens on slow redraw. So this is our stitch simulator. It's going to stitch the layout of our block, numbers, and then all of these lines here are seaming our block together. So that's my first piece, then I'm going to put right sides together and then flip that out, it'll tack it down. So it's literally building my block. And after my block is built, the last thing that stitches, do you see that run stitch going at the bottom that we created? And after it's done with that run stitch, it's going to then do that top run stitch. So if you make those different colors, so let's go over here to our sequence view. And I'm going to make one, let's just say I'll do blue for the first one and for the second one green. Now my embroidery machine is going to stop before it stitches this bottom one, to allow me to lay my block right sides together, and then it'll stitch that, and then it'll stop before doing the one on the top. So that's how you can seam together a border on your blocks in the hoop. And you can do this as many times as you'd like to make the border as long as you want. So hopefully this was a helpful tutorial.